All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the African History Network show. It is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. So we're broadcasting live on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Normally, we're also broadcasting on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF, but they're playing a football game tonight, an NFL game. I think it's an NFL game they're playing tonight. So my show is being preempted by the football game. It happens like that sometimes in live radio. I just found out when I called into the station that they had a football game playing. So we're going to broadcast here anyway, and that's going to be that because I already have a show already laid out to broadcast today. All right, so it is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and we are live. Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Well, we have a lot to talk about on today's show. Now, there were some breaking news stories today. I already had a full show laid out, so I'm going to go ahead with the topics I already had laid out for today. And then we'll also talk about the big story today dealing with the vaccine mandates from the Biden administration that are expected to affect about 100 million people in an effort to crack down on the coronavirus and get it under control, especially with the Delta variant. All right. And there's I looked at reporting from a number of different sources. And there's some good reporting from the Washington Post, 8 things to know about Biden's vaccine mandates and other pandemic plans. So we'll talk about that and share some information from NBC News as well. Biden announces sweeping vaccine mandates affecting millions of workers. All right. So the first story I was going to deal with, and actually I was going to talk about it on Wednesday's show, but we ran out of time, and we had a jam-packed show Wednesday. So I said we'll talk about it on today's show, right? There's a new study that suggests that African-American offenders are more likely to get life sentences in prison than Hispanic and white felons, okay? And this is another example of racial injustice when it comes to the criminal justice system as well. And when we look at laws dealing with racial profiling, when we look at laws to fight against racial injustices in the criminal justice system, these are the type of studies that they look at to craft policy. These are the type of studies they look at to craft policy. So I saw an article from blackamericaweb.com that they picked up from axios.com. Okay, we're going to talk about this some also. Okay. And, this also ties into, I was doing some research yesterday on Wednesday, and there was a study. I have a lot of research dealing with racial inequities in society, structural racism, etc. And there was a article, a really, really good article I was looking at from businessinsider.com. And I'm going to see if we can pull this up. This one here from businessinsider.com deals with 26 examples of structure of systemic racism. 26 examples of systemic racism. So when you deal with a lot of these idiotic black conservatives, or maybe some white conservatives on your job, if you are dealing with people face to face in your job, okay, and they have no clue about what systemic racism is, they think it doesn't exist, etc. Hit them with something like this. Okay, because people don't want to face facts, and when you've had privilege all your life, equality feels like oppression, and you don't want to give up the privilege. This one right here, 26 26 simple charts to show friends and family who aren't convinced racism is still a problem in America. This is from businessinsider.com. Okay, so I was doing some research on Wednesday dealing with this type of information, and we did a broadcast earlier today promoting the 10-week online course, the new 10-week online course we have starting up Saturday, September 11th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, dealing with from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Some of you may have seen that broadcast. Okay, so then also the R. Kelly trial started back up today. Okay, so we didn't talk about the R. Kelly trial yesterday. We talked about it Friday when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday, September 3rd, when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered. But the R. Kelly trial, I don't think they had it Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. It started back up today. Okay, we're going to talk about some of what happened in today's trial. BuzzFeed.com has this article. She thought she was there to interview R. Kelly. She thought she was there to interview R. Kelly. Instead, she was allegedly imprisoned, drugged, and raped. She thought she was there to interview R. Kelly. Instead, she was allegedly imprisoned, drugged, and raped. And the woman that testified today, I think her name was Sonia. She was an intern, and Sonia. Okay, she was a 21-year-old radio station intern who flew from Salt Lake City to Chicago in 2003. She thought she was on her way to an interview that would jumpstart her broadcasting career. Instead, she said she was locked in a room for days, deprived of food and water, and raped while unconscious by the very man she thought she'd be interviewing, one Robert Sylvester Kelly. That's what she testified today. We're gonna talk about this. Okay, and then also the press conference that Joe Biden had today, his 6-point plan to attack the coronavirus. We'll discuss that as well. There's a piece from the Washington Post that lays a lot of this out, and there's an extensive article also from NBC News that I read today as well. We posted about it before his press conference today. There was a piece from CNN that we posted on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. Now, people have to understand this falls in line with a lot of corporations that have been mandating their employees get vaccinated. One of them is Fox News. Fox News has a vaccine mandate to work at Fox News. Of all places, after all the conspiracy theories that Fox News, that hosts on Fox News and things like this have been promoting, and some of them like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity is still promoting nonsense. And they have a vaccine mandate at Fox News, while they have a history of lying to their viewers. Okay, so we'll talk about this as well. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now is correct wrong behavior. Right now is correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well to sign up for our email newsletter. Since we're not broadcasting on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF tonight, they have a football game playing. I don't have to stop for commercial break. because I just went right past the commercial break. We break at 20 after the hour. I just went right past the commercial break. So I don't have to stop for a commercial break. And if I get finished before the top of the hour, guess what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop and go back to bed. Because if I had known that I wasn't broadcasting my show on the radio tonight, I would still be in the bed. Okay. But I got up and finished preparing for a show and called into the radio station. And they said, we have a football game playing right now. It's in the third quarter and we can't stop it. I said, I'll be damned. All right. I said, I wish somebody had told me, because I would have stayed in the bed. Seriously. All right. So let's continue. We have a new class starting up on Saturday, September 11th. You can register for the class right now. It's class number 1 of our 10-week online course. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 and 1968. This session of the class will be on Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is a 10-week online course. We do the class live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it over and over again. We deal with history from last year, the Civil War, through Reconstruction, Jim Crow era, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement. Okay. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. This class is on sale for $70. It's on sale $70, regularly $130. It's on sale $70 until Saturday, September 11th. It's on sale. And also you get 6 bonus presentations from me as well in digital download format when you register for this class. Okay. All right, so visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, I want to jump into this first article here. So I first saw the story from BlackAmericaWeb.com, but Black America Web has too many damn ads, and they just pop up and start playing automatically, all this stuff, and the music just blasts and blows me away. So I'm going to show you the one from Axios, because it gets on my nerves when it does that, and I'm live on the air. So this story here, and I have dozens and dozens of articles dealing with this type of information, but the article from Axios says new study suggests Black offenders more likely to get life sentences than Hispanic and white felons. New study suggests Black offenders more likely to get life sentences than Hispanic and white felons. They picked this story up from Axios.com. Okay. And if we look at this, now this article here from Axios is from September 5th, 2021. African Americans are more likely to get federal life sentences than white or Latinos, a new study found. Now, why does this matter? Some people say, oh, we already know this. Oh, this doesn't matter. Oh, you don't have to do a study, blah, blah, blah. The analysis published recently in Criminology, okay, the publication Criminology, further illustrates the racial disparities of federal sentencing at a time when advocates are pushing for sentencing reforms for nonviolent offenders. And when you're working to change laws, when you're working to change policy, when you're working to write laws to correct wrongs, you don't do it based upon anecdotes. You don't do it based upon what happened to your cousin's barber or what happened to your sister's hairdresser or what happened to this person. You go and you look at the data. All right. Now, an examination of more than 366,000 offenders, an examination of more than 366,000 offenders convicted and sentenced in 90 federal district courts from 2010 to 2017 found racial disparities around life sentences targeting African American offenders. They found racial disparities around life sentences targeting African American offenders. The research excludes offenses related to immigration law. Now, more than 4,800 of all offenders were eligible for life imprisonment, and almost 1,200 received life sentences, the study found. African American offenders accounted for fewer than a third of all cases, but constituted nearly half of those eligible for life sentences. Okay, so we're disproportionately represented when it comes to life sentences. African American offenders accounted for fewer than a third of all cases, but constituted nearly half of those eligible for life sentences. Now, white offenders accounted for more than a third of cases, but constituted less than a quarter of those eligible for life sentences. All right. So it's like, well, wait a second, hold on. African Americans made up less than a third of all cases, but we made up almost half of those eligible for life sentences. And we make up 13% of the population, whereas white people make up about, well, before the 2020 census, they made up about 60% of the population. Now it's 57% of the population. But white people accounted for more than a third of all cases, but constituted less than 1/4 of those eligible for life sentences. So Hispanic offenders were more likely to be eligible for life sentences. And let's see if we can blow this up here. Blow this up larger here. Hispanic offenders were more likely to be eligible for life sentences than white offenders, yet half as likely as African American offenders to receive life sentences. Half as likely as African American offenders to receive life sentences. So just why wasn't clear, and how what wasn't clear is how Hispanics identified themselves prior to changes with the 2020 census may have affected results. Okay. Now, researchers suggest race and ethnicity are indirectly related to modes of convictions. Race and ethnicity are indirectly related to modes of conviction, mandatory minimums, and departures from sentencing guidelines. 2 out of 3 people serving life sentences, serving life terms, are defendants of color. 2 out of 3 people serving life terms are defendants of color. And some believe that life sentences are fraught with racial bias, said Brian D. Johnson, a University of Maryland criminology and criminal justice professor who led the study. He said, if there are racial disparities in this type of sentencing, we must investigate the mechanisms that contribute to them. Now, the study comes as advocates in various cities seek to advance police and criminal justice reforms amid rising crime. Okay. At the same time, you have rising crime in many cities. And some of that has to do with cities opening back up and releasing coronavirus restrictions, things like this. But as you have rising crime in many cities, you also have a call for police and criminal justice reform. Reverend Markel Hutchins, CEO of Movement Forward, told Axios the study showed that African-American leaders, police organizations, and lawmakers need to work together to end racial disparities. He said we have to deal with issues. We have to deal with issues of systemic racism and inequity, from those who get the most speeding tickets to those who get the healthiest sentences for federal crimes. Those who get the most speeding tickets to those who get the healthiest sentences for federal crimes. Now, don't forget the First Step Act, signed by Donald Trump, but that was Representative Hakeem Jeffries' bill. Okay, and the First Step Act reduced some federal sentences and gave judges more sentencing flexibility. Okay, now it's interesting that they mentioned, there's a white publication. They mentioned Trump, but they didn't mention Representative Hakeem Jeffries. That was Representative Hakeem Jeffries' bill. That wasn't Donald Trump's bill. And just so people understand, they tried to, in 2015, they tried to pass an earlier version of the First Step Act in 2015. It was blocked in the U.S. Senate. Democrats tried to get this passed under President Barack Obama in 2015, an earlier version of the First Step Act. It was blocked in the U.S. Senate by Jeff Sessions and of Alabama, Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, and Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Jeff Sessions went on to become Donald Trump's first attorney general, and Jeff Sessions was a hardliner when it came to police reform. He was against police reform, okay? Because Jeff Sessions was the one who stopped the investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments under the Trump administration. A lot of the police reforms that police reform measures that were put in place under the Obama administration were reversed under the Trump administration. Okay, I don't know how many people know about this. If you watch this show regularly, you know I've talked about this, and I dealt with this in 2016, leading up to the presidential election, because I covered the election extensively. We talked about this in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And also, if you've seen the lecture that I did called African American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump, Voter Suppression, Reparations, and How Elections Have Consequences, you know, we talked about it there in that lecture as well. There was a I'll go back to this article here in just a minute, but there was a okay, what's this, slide number 34 from this presentation. There was a one of the reforms that happened under the Obama administration that was reversed under Jeff Sessions. And I don't know how many people know this. If you've heard this before, let me know. This article right here, this is from my presentation that I did in 2017. African American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump, Voter Suppression, Reparations, and How Elections Have Consequences. Attorney General Jeff Sessions redeclares the war on drugs, because the war on drugs had wind down under the Obama administration. Attorney General Jeff Sessions instructed federal prosecutors on Friday, May 12, 2017, to take the most aggressive approach possible against federal criminal defendants for low-level drug offenses. He ordered them to stop seeking leniency for low-level drug offenders and to start seeking the toughest possible penalties, because that was a reversal under the Obama administration, under the Smart on Crime initiative from 2013 from Attorney General Eric Holder. They backed off of charging low-level nonviolent drug offenders with the longest, harshest sentences. Jeff Sessions from Alabama, U.S. Senator from Alabama, who became Trump's first attorney general, reversed this because Jeff Sessions was pro-police and he was against criminal justice reform. He was against criminal justice reform, against police reform, all that stuff. All right. That's what federal authorities used to do when the war on drugs fueled the passage of mandatory minimum sentencing laws. But under former President Barack Obama, the Justice Department tried to rein in the use of those statutes, which advocates say were used disproportionately against minorities and led to massive prison overcrowding. The policy change will result in lengthier prison sentences for low-level drug offenders and likely reverse a recent drop in the federal prison population. Because first of all, U.S. prison population dropped each year under President Obama. It consistently dropped in the 8 years under President Obama. And the war on drugs was winding down under President Obama because that was coming from the top down. I don't know how many people know this, but we dealt with this extensively on this show. Now, there was a, where's the slide that I want? Okay. Okay, well, I can show you this right here. For example, next slide. I haven't looked at this presentation in a long time. U.S. prison population drops to its lowest rate in 20 years. You've heard me talk about this before. December 2015, the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years. This was an article from Newsweek.com. Newsweek reported on December 29th, 2016, that the U.S. prison population fell the most in almost 4 decades. The U.S. prison population fell the most in almost 4 decades to 1.53 million inmates in December 2015, as the Department of Justice reported, resulting in the lowest rate of incarceration in a generation. The Department of Justice reported this in December 2016. The drop has been driven by changes in federal and state corrections policies that included drug treatment programs and the sentencing of fewer nonviolent drug offenders to federal prisons. The sentencing of fewer nonviolent drug offenders to federal prisons, the department said in its year-end report on prison populations. This was under President Barack Obama. Very few people talk about this. So the slide I really want is this one right here. So when we talk about this study that just came out, and when we look at this piece from Axios, as I was saying, credit for the First Step Act. He doesn't mention Representative Hakeem Jeffries. That was Representative Hakeem Jeffries' bill, black guy from New York area. They don't mention him. But here's something else that's not mentioned. And Donald Trump will never tell you this either. There was a commission in 2013 under President Barack Obama called the National Commission on Forensic Sciences. How many people have heard about this? The National Commission on Forensic Sciences, the Ncfs. What was the Ncfs? This commission was started by President Barack Obama in 2013 in partnership with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, at the U.S. Department of Commerce to enhance the practice and improve the reliability of forensic science. The commission includes forensic science service providers on the federal, state, and local level, research scientists, and academics, law enforcement, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and other stakeholders, according to its website. So why did they put this together? The purpose of the Ncfs that was created under President Barack Obama is to ensure the reliability of forensic science so that innocent people are not sent to prison or put to death for crimes they did not commit. This was put together under President Barack Obama. Hundreds, but more likely thousands of innocent people have been condemned due to junk science and unsound forensic evidence and techniques. The importance of this Obama-era initiative was underscored when in 2015, the FBI conducted a review of 3,000 cases involving microscopic hair samples and discovered that its analysts provided erroneous testimony 96% of the time. You know what happened to this commission under Donald Trump? Jeff Sessions got rid of the commission. The commission was put together to make sure that people weren't convicted by bad forensic science and weren't put on death row and ended up being killed because of bad forensic science, and African Americans are disproportionately end up getting life sentences disproportionately end up getting death sentences. This was put together under the Obama administration. Under Trump, Jeff Sessions disbanded this. He said it wasn't necessary. The Republican war on science, just like the war on science by Republicans under dealing with coronavirus, the Republican war on science has come to the U.S. Department of Justice with a decision by Attorney Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III to eliminate the National Commission on Forensic Sciences. The commission was started by President Barack Obama in 2013 in partnership with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, at the U.S. Department of Commerce to enhance the practice and improve the reliability of forensic science. Okay, read this article here from AtlantaBlackStar.com. This is from April 15, 2017. AG Sessions forensic panel helps keep innocent people in prison unnecessarily. This is an example of how elections have consequences. This is what I was explaining to people in 2015 and 2016, warning people about Trump. And people didn't want to listen. They thought it was just about one person versus another person. They didn't say anything about the president nominates the attorney general and the U.S. Senate confirms the attorney general. And what type of attorney general will Trump nominate? And what policies will this attorney general put in place in the Department of Justice? And which policies will they get rid of? So when we look at, when we fast forward to this study today, I find it interesting. This white publication talks about the First Step Act signed by Trump, but they don't say it was Representative Hakeem Jeffries' bill. But then don't say, well, wait a second, under Trump, Jeff Sessions got rid of the commission to make sure people weren't being convicted based upon junk science and being getting death sentences and they're innocent, and getting life sentences and they're innocent. Now, talking about the First Step Act, the bill led to the release of at least 3,000 inmates by the end of 2019. Axios reported that Trump later told people he regretted following some of son-in-law senior advisor Jared Kushner's political advice on criminal justice reform. Because when you I followed the 2016 presidential election extensively. I was on the radio 6 days a week. I was doing nationally syndicated radio 5 days, Monday through Friday. I was doing 9:10 a.m. Superstation 2 days a week. I was on Steve Hood's morning show on Thursdays. Then I was doing my show, the African History Network show, on Sundays. So I was on like 6 days a week, and day in, day out, covering the presidential election in 2016. We're covering the debates that were taking place, all that stuff. And if you know anything about the 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump did not campaign on criminal justice reform. He campaigned on law and order. 2016, Donald Trump did not campaign on criminal justice reform. He campaigned on law and order. He campaigned on Blue Lives Matter, because Blue Lives Matter was something that was pushed at the Republican National Convention in 2016. Okay, now the push for criminal justice reform out of the Trump White House, that was coming from Jared Kushner. That wasn't coming from Trump. Jared Kushner was the one really pushing for that, and Trump was echoing some of that. Why did Jared Kushner push for criminal justice reform? Because Jared Kushner's father was sent to prison. Who sent Jared Kushner's father to prison? It was Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, when Governor Chris Christie was a U.S. attorney from New Jersey. He's the one that sent Jared Kushner's father to prison. That's why Chris Christie, who was on the Trump transition team after Trump became president-elect, he was on the Trump transition team. That's why he never got a position in the White House, because Jared Kushner was blocking Chris Christie, because Jared Kushner there was bad blood between Jared Kushner and Chris Christie, because Chris Christie sent Jared Kushner's father to prison. So Axios reported that Trump later told people he regretted following some of son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner's political advice on criminal justice reform, which shows that wasn't Trump's idea for criminal justice reform. That wasn't his platform. in 2016 or in 2020. He ran on Law and Order. Okay, so read this article here from Axios. And then also they have the piece here from they also have the piece here from Black America Web. Now, it's important to understand with the First Step Act, that's just the beginning. There's more that needs to happen, and everybody acknowledges that there's more legislation that needs to happen. That's at the federal level. There's more legislation that needs to happen. That's just the beginning. Okay, and then this piece here from Black America Web. This piece here. New study suggests Black offenders more likely to get life sentences than Hispanic ones. Okay, just a second here. Close all this stuff out. Okay, from Black America Web. So read that article, read that piece also. Let me see here. Is there anything important? I printed this article up. Is there anything important what they're saying? 2 out of 3. Okay, it's redundant. All right, so read that one as well. We'll post this link here. Okay, next story. And since we're not on 910 AM Superstation tonight, I don't have to stop for breaks. I don't have to stop for commercial breaks. All right, everybody, share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in as well. All right, update in the R. Kelly trial. So the R. Kelly trial, it was on recess like the past 3 days. It started back up today. We didn't talk about it. We haven't talked about it the past few days. We dealt with it last Friday. I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we talked about it last Friday. So I want to go to this next story here. Just a second. So BuzzFeed has an article. So we'll look at the New York Times and look at BuzzFeed. New York Times is a really good article as well. I was looking at dealing with today's testimony, and also BuzzFeed. Okay, let's look at this here from where is that? Let's look at this here from BuzzFeed. Okay, so one of the people that testified today, her name is Sonia. And she was 21 years old when she met R. Kelly. Just a second here. Where is that? Okay. She was 21 years old when she met R. Kelly. She thought she thought she was there to interview R. Kelly because she was a radio intern. Instead, she was allegedly imprisoned, drugged, and raped. This is what she testified to today. The woman testified she feared coming forward after being told by the singer's associates, "Don't F with R. Kelly." So the 21-year-old radio station intern flew from Salt Lake City to Chicago in 2003. She thought she was on her way to an interview that would jumpstart her broadcasting career. Instead, she testified that she was locked in a room for days, deprived of food and water, and raped while unconscious by the man she was supposed to interview, Robert Sylvester Kelly. That's what she testified to today. She said, "I was scared," said the woman, Sonia, now 39. "I was ashamed. I was embarrassed." Now, Sonia, one of several women R. Kelly is accused of sexually assaulting, testified Tuesday in the Brooklyn federal court, where the singer is facing charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. Now, it's important to understand the defense has not presented their case yet. This is the prosecution's case. Okay. The defense hasn't presented their case yet. So I don't know if he's going to say it was his brother that was impersonating him or something. It was somebody that looked like R. Kelly, but really wasn't R. Kelly. I don't know what his defense is going to be. They're all lying. All these women, most of them don't know each other. All these women, they just all made it up. They just all made it up. I never saw them before. I don't know them, or yeah, we had sex, but they all wanted it, and are there videos of you having sex with them because he allegedly recorded the video? So do they have evidence of them having sex? The videos? What? So we'll see what the defense comes up with. Okay, the defense has not presented their case yet. This is the prosecution's case. So Sonia, who testified today, is one of several women R. Kelly is accused of sexually assaulting. She testified Thursday in the Brooklyn federal court, where he is facing charges he's facing 1 count of racketeering and 8 counts of interstate sex trafficking, a violation of the Mann Act, MANN. Sonia, who was identified in court only by her first name, told the jury she first met Robert Sylvester Kelly outside of a mall in Utah, the state of Utah. The young radio intern had heard he was doing an appearance and approached him for an interview. She said, "It would have been my first big celebrity interview," she said. I thought it would really just kickstart my career. Arrangements were eventually made for her to fly to his Chicago studio, but as soon as she arrived, Sonia began feeling uncomfortable. She said an employee of R. Kelly's had greeted her and asked her some crazy questions, including whether she needed protection, quote unquote protection, a question she did not initially understand. Then he just came out and said, "Don't you need a condom?" Sonia testified. She said, "I said, no, I'm not here for that." Sonia said that she was then asked for her ID and cell phone, from which the employee wrote down several phone numbers of her family members and friends from her recent call list. She was then made to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which she said she did not read in full because the room was too dark. As another employee went through her luggage, she was informed of several rules she had to follow while there, including that she was not allowed to look up or talk to anybody. During R. Kelly's trial, several women have testified that they were subjected to extremely controlling, oppressive, and violent behavior. Extremely controlling, oppressive, and violent behavior while in the singer's company. Okay, now this is the piece from Axios. I mean, not Axios, BuzzFeed. This is the piece from BuzzFeed. We'll talk about the piece from, we'll look briefly at the piece from the New York Times here in just a second. I want to see if I can pull up something here from the Black News Channel as well. Okay, because Yodit Tawolde talked about this. Let's see if we could pull. Okay, well, Paul Henderson. Let's pull this up from the Black News Channel also. We'll go to this here in just a second. Okay, so let's continue here. So Sonia said she was then left alone in a room inside the studio. A few minutes later, she realized she could not open the door. She became frightened. It was locked from the outside, she said. Sonia spent the next 3 or 4 days locked in that room. She said, banging on the door and repeatedly calling the studio's reception to be let out. There were no windows and no bathroom. Whenever she had to use the toilet, she would have to call reception and be escorted there. Sometimes an employee would make her leave the bathroom door open while she was in there, she said. She said she was not given anything to eat or drink for at least 2 days, and then she was offered Chinese food and a cup of Sprite. Despite being very hungry, she said she became extremely full and tired after consuming very little. The next thing she remembered was waking up on the couch. Her underwear was hanging on the couch arm, and there was a wet white fluid on her thighs and vaginal area. She testified to the day in court. She said it felt like something had been inside of her, she said. R. Kelly was in the corner, Sonia testified, doing, quote, doing up his pants, end quote. Now, despite having been unconscious, Sonia said she quickly came to believe she had been sexually assaulted. Okay, despite being unconscious, she quickly believed she had been sexually assaulted. She said, quote, it just made me feel like something happened to me, she said. I know my body. I know when something's not right. Disoriented, she approached R. Kelly. She said he grabbed my butt with both hands and pulled me closer. R. Kelly then told her he'd be back, she said, but he never returned. A few minutes later, one of his employees entered the room, apologized, and said R. Kelly would be returning, quote, because some things would not be returning because some things came up, quote unquote. He told her she could go home. But first, she testified she was made to sign a second non-disclosure agreement, which the employee punctuated with a threat. She said, quote, he said, don't F with Mr. Kelly, end quote. Now, the employee allegedly told Sonia not to tell anyone about what happened, saying they had her address and phone number, as well as those of several of her family members and friends, and the name of her infant child who was back at home with her family. R. Kelly's defense team quizzed Sonia on why she did not use her cell phone to call the police while she was being held in the room, to which she said she did not think they would believe her, and she was worried about the singer's team having her loved one's information, a fear, she said, that became more explicit following the threat from the employee. She said, quote, I didn't think anyone would believe me, end quote, she said. Now, 16 years later, when the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly aired, Sonia retained an attorney and told her story to federal prosecutors. Sonia's testimony is the first time during this trial R. Kelly has been accused of what was implied to be drugging and raping a victim, although prosecutors never explicitly used the word drugged. Now, R. Kelly's defense attorney, Devereaux Canick, attempted to cast doubt on Sonia's testimony due to her lack of memory from being unconscious during the alleged rape. At one point, attorney Devereaux Canick also questioned whether it was, quote, the food that made Sonia drowsy, end quote. He asked, what is MSG? Now, there's no scientific evidence that monosodium glutamate, MSG, an ingredient often used in Chinese food, has any negative health effects or causes fatigue, and such claims are largely rooted in racism, according to BuzzFeed. Devereaux Canick said, quote, how do you know it was the food that made you, how do you know It was the food that made you drowsy, Kanik asked Sonia. She said, what else could it have been? She responded. Now, also on Thursday, another alleged victim named Anna testified about her abusive relationship with R. Kelly, which went on from around late 2016 to late 2018, starting when she was 19 or 20 years old. Like many of his other accusers, Anna said R. Kelly forced her to follow strict rules, spanked her when she broke them, and made her have unwanted sexual encounters with himself as well as other alleged victims. Like other women, he allegedly also forced her to write letters that contained damaging untruths as a form of collateral, including one that falsely stated her father had molested her and another that claimed her mother was blackmailing R. Kelly. Now, R. Kelly would occasionally make Anna record videos of herself as punishment. She testified, including one where she was made to walk back and forth while naked and calling herself stupid and a slut. In another video, Anna said R. Kelly made her be, quote, sexual and seductive with bodily fluids, end quote. She did not further specify what she was made to do in the video, but another alleged victim previously testified that R. Kelly made her make a video as punishment in which she smeared her face with feces. Now, do they have any of these videos? Did R. Kelly destroy the videos? Did he erase the videos? When does he still have them? Okay, so I want to go to this clip here from let's go to this clip here from Black News channel. This is from Yadit Tawolde making the case. She spoke with attorney Paul Henderson. Let me see, do we have this? Where is this? Okay. She spoke with attorney Paul Henderson about the trial today. And let's see here. Just 1 second. Like I said, this is a crazy case. This case, it was on recess like the past 3 days, and I did not miss having to read about this the past 3 days. I have, I did not miss having to deal with this stuff. Okay, let's go to this clip here.
And this is Making the Case. After a long break, R. Kelly's racketeering and sex trafficking trial resumed today with a former radio station intern testifying that the singer lured her to Chicago with the promise of granting her an interview. Instead, that woman says she was locked in a room for 3 days and possibly drugged. Our very own Dre Clark is at the federal courthouse in Brooklyn with her story and other testimony from day 13 of this trial.
Today, federal prosecutors have called 34 witnesses to either testify directly against R. Kelly or provide testimony supporting their case. Today, 2 more female accusers came forward telling jurors that R. Kelly was a very controlling man and he had a serious fetish for young girls. R. Kelly's federal trial is now nearing 2 weeks, and there's been no shortage of testimony accusing Kelly of being a vile and violent man. Accuser number 8, who was identified as Sonia, told jurors she met Kelly when she was 21 in 2003 at a mall in Salt Lake City, Utah. Sonia was working for a local radio station and wanted to get a big interview with R. Kelly. Kelly declined, but later someone gave Sonia a piece of paper with Kelly's phone number. She said Kelly eventually invited her to Chicago for an interview. Sonia said her trip to the Windy City was a 3-day nightmare. She told jurors she was kept inside a locked room at Kelly's recording studio, The Chocolate Factory, with no food or water for almost 3 days. Sonia said only Kelly could approve her request to use the bathroom. And she testified after she was finally given food and drink, she got woozy immediately and fell asleep. She told jurors when she woke up, her underwear were off and Kelly was standing across the room, zipping up his pants. She told jurors there's no doubt in her mind Kelly raped her. She said Kelly made her sign a non-disclosure agreement and told her to go back to Utah. She never got the interview. And accuser number 9, Anna. She told jurors she met Kelly at a concert in South Carolina in 2016. She testified Kelly was controlling. He had strict rules like no makeup, never look at other men, and in public wear only baggy clothes and hats, and never make a move without getting his permission first. She said if you broke his rules, he would spank you until you were bruised or bloody. She said Kelly recorded her having sex with other people and said he oftentimes asked her to role play as a very young girl or Disney character before they had sex. She told jurors she wrote letters claiming her mother was trying to blackmail Kelly, but she said the letters were full of lies. Kelly, she testified, made her write those things to protect him in case he was ever arrested for sex crimes. Anna said she was paid $1,500 to participate in the documentary Surviving R. Kelly. Many credit that documentary for provoking R. Kelly's demise. In New York, I'm Dre Clark for Making the Case.
The prosecution picked up where it left off, giving the jury more testimony from women who say Kelly used his inner circle to take advantage of them. Back with me to discuss the action from court today is veteran prosecutor and BNC's legal contributor, Paul Henderson. Paul, let's start with the testimony from the first witness today, who went by the name Sonia, the former radio station intern, who says Kelly promised her an interview, but instead she was locked in a room for days without food or water, then was later drugged and sexually assaulted. And the defense then pointed out that Sonia never publicly shared this until taking the stand, then hired famed women's rights attorney Gloria Allred and fabricated her stories after other accusers spoke out publicly. Now, hearing this testimony, so many questions come to mind, right? Like, how could Kelly think he could get away with locking someone he just met in a room for days, starving, drugging, then raping them? And why are we just now hearing this? This is the 8th accuser who's testified against Kelly, but how do you think the jury received her testimony?
I think they received the testimony in many of the same ways that we all received it as we're hearing it. I think the defense brought out a couple of really important points to try and undermine her testimony by talking about how long it's been since she told anybody what happened. The fact that she has hired Gloria Allred, and the fact that she had a phone with her the whole time and maybe could have told someone or done something different. And all of that goes back to me, from my lens. We can be judgmental about her behavior as a fan or her behavior as someone trying to get the interview, but we really have to look at the accountability of the criminal and illegal behavior from R. Kelly. That's the point. And so as long as we keep coming back to that same analysis or that same lens or that same focus, I think the trial is proceeding in the way that prosecutors want it to proceed. Now, what to me stood out, separate from however judgmental we may have been about this person testifying as being dumb or fan behavior, what have you, we have to look at what the jury was left with, which is yet another story of evidence, which is testimony, that's consistent with the testimony from the previous alleged victims that we're hearing about R. Kelly. And we're hearing corroborative evidence, corroborative information about R. Kelly and his rules. We're hearing corroborative evidence about things that he was doing consistently to justify the charges of racketeering or corruption. And again, the definition of that is the prosecution has to prove at least 2 instances of organized behavior for illegal purposes. And that's what we're hearing. So to me, that's the takeaway. This is another story that if you believe a part of it, and any part of it that corroborates the illegal purposes, the organized behavior that we've heard from other witnesses and other victims in the past, that's a win and a goal for the prosecution. And to me, that's really the point. And we can unpack the judgment about her behavior and the attacks about her character, the attacks about her not making calls or telling anyone earlier, and the attacks about her hiring another defense attorney for her own representation. We could talk about that, but it's in a separate box and a separate analysis from the actual prosecution that we're talking about with R. Kelly.
Well, let's talk about the one specific line from Sonia's testimony regarding Kelly's inner circle. She says that when she walked in for what she thought was going to be an interview, one of Kelly's associates offered her a condom. Now, would this support? Actually, no, this would support the prosecution's theory that Kelly was running a criminal enterprise with the help of his staff, right?
That is correct, because now we're seeing not just R. Kelly and what he's doing and saying, but we're seeing his staff and people that he is directing, presumably, giving her material that would be inappropriate or for an inappropriate purpose, right? You come in for an interview, you're not going to get that interview, but you're about to get that condom or whatever you're about to get from R. Kelly, from his staff, and that's part of him coordinating behavior with his staff and the people that are around him. And again, the issue is we have to focus as jurors and we have to focus as viewers of what is R. Kelly's behavior. Was he acting illegally? Did he have an illegal purpose or have organized behavior that was inappropriate? Even though in this case, with this victim or alleged victim and with this witness, this is someone that was of age, although we've been hearing from plenty of others who at the time were not of age, both men and women. And so, yes, that condom being offered from staff as part of her interaction with Kelly is a very important part. And I think we'll hear it in closing arguments from the prosecution raising that issue about how R. Kelly was controlling the people around him to act in a certain way to encourage or help facilitate his illegal purposes.
Now, when the defense again tried to discredit Sonia's account, another disturbing allegation was revealed. When she was asked why she didn't report the encounter, Sonia said that someone told her to, quote, never mess with R. Kelly. And after his associates photocopied her ID and, obtained other information from her, Kelly then had the addresses and names of her family members. Will that be enough to quell some of those questions that I mentioned earlier by the jury that they might have had, like why someone who experienced something that she did allegedly experience and not report it to authorities?
Maybe not completely, but what it does do is it takes one more step affirming that the people around him were being directed by R. Kelly to diminish the likelihood of him being held accountable for whatever the behavior was that he was engaged in. Now we're hearing what that behavior was, but we're also hearing that he took specific, direct, and intentional actions that answers the question of why didn't they call someone? Why didn't they tell someone? Why didn't they stop or intervene earlier? Why didn't they feel empowered to do these things? Because he was grooming them, because the staff was helping them to be groomed to engage in something illegal or in something that they weren't giving consent to or didn't want to do. You can color it however you want to color it, but when you have to turn over your ID to someone whom you're afraid of or is in a different power structure than you are in, with, say, like a celebrity and you're a fan, when you have to sign and write all these documents and statements against your own family that could come out that could be embarrassing, when you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement for folks that aren't attorneys and don't understand or know the significance of these things, all of these things explain why people are hesitant to come forward and work with the criminal justice system or work with authorities. And we know that there's a hesitation even without all of those steps. But in this case, with those steps that have been orchestrated and built by R. Kelly specifically with these alleged victims, it does answer some of the questions that are being raised about their behavior. And again, I want to separate our judgment about behavior for people that are doing things that we may consider dumb or we are judgmental about, or that was stupid. But the real focus needs to be on what the team was doing and what R. Kelly was doing, because that's the focus of this trial. That's what prosecution is going to re-remind this jury after we hear from the rest of the testimony and the evidence that's being presented. And to me, that's what stands out. The information that will be used as evidence against R. Kelly in closing arguments to connect the dots, explaining why his behavior was illegal and why he should be held criminally culpable.
Well, the prosecution is expected to rest on Monday of next week. Now, Paul, if you're the defense, how would you try and stop the bleeding after weeks of this compelling and graphic testimony?
You know, I think the defense only has one way to go here, and I think the defense is going to have to show with each witness. I would be putting up a line or a chart of like, here's when the incident's supposed to happen, but here's when it was conveniently revealed to prosecution to use against our client. And then I would have a breakdown from each and every one of those witnesses that was testifying at the inconsistencies, whether they were substantive or not, to try and talk about this being a shaky foundation to rely on a guilty verdict for the client that I was representing. That said, it's not a strong leg in the verdict. I mean, and the evidence that is coming in has been corroborative. It has been consistent. We're hearing a lot about rules from every single person that led them to engage in behavior that, again, is illegal, basically because there's no defense, whether you thought they were lying or not, to some of the statutory rape involvement that R. Kelly was involved in. So that's what I think is going to happen. I'm looking forward to that as well.
So are we. All right, veteran prosecutor and legal contributor Paul Henderson, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, so that was from the Black News Channel, September 9th, 2019, Yodit Tawolde's show, Making the Case. That was veteran attorney Paul Henderson that you heard, legal analysis from Paul Henderson. Okay, then also check out the article from the New York Times. I don't have time to get into it today. We may talk about it a little bit tomorrow. Check out this article here from the New York Times. Woman describes life inside R. Kelly's orbit of living girlfriends. Woman describes life inside R. Kelly's orbit of living girlfriends. The second woman to testify on Thursday said R. Kelly was violent and possessive following a witness who described being raped by the singer. Okay, this is from September 9th, 2021, from the New York Times. All right. Very quickly here, let's see, coming up Friday, September 17th and Saturday, September 18th, the second annual Detroit African Cultural Festival is happening in Detroit. It is taking place at Maharis Gentry Park, 12550 Avondale Street in Detroit, 12550 Avondale Street in Detroit. And this is a free event. The times are, let's see, on Friday, it is, I think it's 12 to 6 on Friday and 12 to 8 on Saturday. Okay. I'll be speaking on Saturday. We're going to have this information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And then also, we have it, also it's on Facebook. If you follow them on their Facebook fan page, let's see, let's flip over to their Facebook fan page just a second. I want to get the okay, here do we have if we go to their Facebook fan page, it's Detroit ACF, I think it is Detroit ACF. Detroit African Cultural Festival. Okay, let me pull this up here. So you can follow them on their Facebook fan page for more information. There's also an event, a Facebook event invite as well. Detroit ACF on Facebook. Okay, and you can get more information. But it's going to be a great event. They have African drumming. They have African dance. Events for the children. It's a good family oriented environment. Let's see, a drum circle at 3 p.m. They have African drum, African dance, master classes, kids corner, wellness corner. There'll be vendors. African History Network will be a vendor there as well. Live musical performances. Okay, so it's Friday, September 17th, 12 noon to 6 p.m. And it's Saturday, September 18th, 12 noon to 8 p.m. We'll get this flyer up at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com also. We'll have more information there as well. Okay. All right. Let's continue here. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. And if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $, the AHN show through Cash App. $, the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN show, paypal.me / the AHN show as well. We're here 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. This is our official Cash App account, $, the AHN show, SHOW. Okay. And when you go to it, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. That's not me. All right, let's continue here. Okay, I want to go to this last story here. A lot of people saw the press conference today that President Joe Biden had dealing with his 6-point strategy to fight against coronavirus. And we have the vaccine mandates. We're going to go through and break this down. Let's see here. Okay. Let me pull this. I want to pull this piece up here from. There's one from NBC News, and then also a good piece from the Washington Post that really goes through and breaks this down. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the story first here from NBC Nightly News. That gives an overview of what happened today. And also we're going to go to this story here from NBC News also. Let's see here. Let me pull this up. All right, let's look at this. Okay, so Biden announces sweeping vaccine mandates affecting millions of workers. It's expected that 100 million workers will be affected by this vaccine mandate. And also federal contractors, also federal employees and federal contractors are impacted by this. Now, employees of companies that have companies that have 100 or more employees are also required to fully vaccinate or require a weekly COVID-19 test from their employees. That's for companies that have 100 employees or more, and that is going to come through the Department of Labor. All right, so just a second here. Let's go to this piece here from NBC Nightly News. Hold on, let me cue this back up just a second. All right, we'll let that commercial play. If we look at this piece here from NBC News quickly. President Joe Biden on Thursday issued 2 executive orders mandating vaccines for federal workers and contractors, and announced new requirements for large employers and healthcare providers that he said would affect around 100 million workers, more than 2/3 of the U.S. workforce. Quote, "We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin," making a direct appeal to the 80 million people who he said were still unvaccinated. Quote, "Your refusal has cost all of us," end quote. Now, Biden also announced that he asked the Department of Labor to issue an emergency rule requiring all employers with 100 or more employees to ensure with 100 or more employees to ensure their workforce is fully vaccinated, or require an unvaccinated worker to produce any unvaccinated worker to produce a negative COVID-19 test at least once a week. So be tested at least once a week if they don't get vaccinated for whatever reason. This is going to be through the Department of Labor. Now, the requirement could carry a $14,000 fine per violation and would affect 2/3 of the country's workforce, a senior administration official said. I want to go to this piece here from NBC Nightly News that gives a recap of what happened.
COVID cases surging and deaths now 5 times higher than just a month ago. President Biden is requiring tens of millions more Americans to get vaccinated.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you.
The president is ordering nearly all federal workers and employees of contractors that do business with the federal government get vaccinated within 75 days, eliminating their option to be tested instead of getting shots. Employees who refuse could be punished, even fired.
If you want to work with the federal government and do business with us, get vaccinated.
While initially reluctant to issue mandates, the president's aggressive new plan requires vaccinations for 17 million healthcare workers at hospitals and other sites that receive Medicare or Medicaid funding. President Biden's now pressuring private companies too, directing the Labor Department to require businesses with 100 or more employees ensure their workers are fully vaccinated or provide a negative test each week, a move the White House estimates will impact 80 million Americans. Companies that do not comply could face fines, the White House anticipating lawsuits.
We're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers.
All of it as approval of the president's handling of the virus has dropped since he expressed confidence about the pandemic 2 months ago.
Today, we're closer than ever to declaring our independence from a deadly virus.
The president tonight.
We're in the tough stretch, and it could last for a while.
And the TSA is doubling fines for airline passengers who refuse to mask up.
If you break the rules, be prepared to pay. And by the way, show some respect.
And Peter, the White House wants to make at-home testing more widely available. How do they plan to do it?
Yeah, Lester, that's right. President Biden tonight announcing the federal government is teaming up with Walmart, Amazon, and Kroger to sell at-home rapid tests at a cheaper price beginning this week.
Okay, and they're selling they're selling the tests at cost as well. They're selling the tests at cost so they don't make a profit on them. So let's look at this here. Just a second. Let me stop this clip from playing. Okay. Let's go through quickly, and then I have a piece from the Washington Post that really capsulizes this. So you can read this article here from NBC News. It's about 6 pages because I printed it out. But very quickly, Employees working in healthcare facilities that receive Medicare or Medicaid reimbursement will also be required to be vaccinated, a move that will impact 7 million workers at 50,000 healthcare providers. As of July 27th, 27% of the country's healthcare workers were unvaccinated. As of July 2021, 27% of the country's healthcare workers were unvaccinated, according to a study by the COVID States Project. Now, the Biden administration shied away from vaccine mandates early in the summer, but is now embracing them as Biden once billed as what Biden once billed as the summer of freedom ends, with thousands of unvaccinated Americans dying from COVID-19 every week. And it's about 1,500, right around 1,500 deaths a day now, somewhere around 150,000, 160,000 new cases a day. Much of Biden's wider agenda and political standing is seen as dependent on his ability to address the coronavirus pandemic, with his approval numbers falling as new infections rise. Thursday evening, the Republican National Committee announced that it would sue the Biden administration, calling the mandate unconstitutional and authoritarian. Okay, but they're not suing Texas over the abortion bill. The Republican National Committee is not going to sue Texas over the abortion bill that is authoritarian, but they're going to sue the Biden administration over this. But the Republican National Committee, I haven't seen the plan they put forth to get coronavirus under control. So I just find that very interesting. Okay. To make testing available, Biden announced that Walmart, Amazon, and Kroger will start selling at-home rapid tests for profit for the next 3 months, resulting in a 35% price cut by the end of the week. Medicaid will also cover at-home tests for free for beneficiaries, and the federal government will expand a free testing program to 10,000 pharmacies. Biden also encouraged large venues like sports arenas, concert halls to require proof of vaccination in order to enter, and said that TSA, Transportation Security Administration, will double fines on travelers who refuse to wear a mask on airlines and other modes of transportation. Okay, now, let's see, page 3. Let me go down to this here. To help address surging cases in schools that have resulted in hundreds of closures over the past month, President Biden called on all schools to set up regular testing and plans to make additional funding available for local school districts that have had their funding cut by state governments for implementing COVID safety measures such as mask requirements, like in Florida and Texas. Okay, school districts that are implementing mask mandates, but the dumbass Republican governor is banning mask mandates in schools because they really don't want to protect children. Now, Biden also announced that 30,000 Head Start teachers will be required to get vaccinated, and call on governors to require vaccinations for teachers and school staff because they're dealing with children that aren't approved to be vaccinated. Quote, let me be blunt. My plan also takes on elected officials and states that are undermining you in these life-saving actions. If these governors won't help us beat the pandemic, I will use my power as president to get them out of the way. If these governors won't help us beat the pandemic, I will use my power as president to get them out of the way. Now, end quote, the Department of Education has launched investigations into whether mask mandates in 5 states discriminate against students with disabilities who are at the U.S. Department of Education. Miguel Cardona, Secretary of Education. They've launched investigations into whether mask mandates in 5 states discriminate against students with disabilities who are at heightened risk for severe illness from COVID-19 by preventing them from accessing in-person education, the official said. Okay, now I was looking at, I posted an article that was this morning. I posted an article, you know, we've been talking about in the South and coronavirus outbreaks in schools in the South, and the Southern schools went back to school before a lot of schools in the North went back to school. So I think this is like their 3rd week back at school, because like here in Detroit, schools just opened back up after Labor Day, but they went back to school about 2-3 weeks ago in the South. So there was in Mississippi, outbreak in schools in Mississippi is severe. There was an article from the Clarion Ledger, which is a Mississippi news publication. If you follow us on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, you probably saw me post this article earlier today. Let me flip over to this. So let me flip over to this article here. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how in Mississippi, they had to send 20,000 students home because of coronavirus outbreaks. And there was about 5,600 students that had actually tested positive for COVID-19. Okay. Hold on, let me close this. Let's bring it back up again. Now it's about 30,000 students, teachers, and staff in Mississippi have been quarantined because of possible exposure to coronavirus. So this article is from August 24th, 2021. Over 30,000 Mississippi students, teachers, staff quarantined after possible COVID-19 exposure. Okay, this is from the Clarion Ledger. More than 5,700 Mississippi students tested positive for coronavirus last week, and over 30,000 teachers, over 30,000 students, teachers, and staff. Hold on, where is that article? Okay. More than 5,700 Mississippi students tested positive for coronavirus last week, and over 30,000 students, teachers, and staff were quarantined after possible exposure to COVID-19. Of 835 schools reporting from 75 of Mississippi's 82 counties. Okay, from 835 schools reporting from 75 of Mississippi's 82 counties. There were 386 COVID-19 outbreaks in schools statewide between, get this, August 16th to August 20th. Just a week of August 16th to August 20th. Okay, like 5 days. Okay, there were 386 outbreaks. According to a Tuesday Mississippi State Department of Health report, the 28,990 students in quarantine make up 6.5% of the school population. Now, they're not saying 28,000 students have coronavirus. They were possibly exposed to it because of the outbreak in these schools. So they had to quarantine these students. Okay? If a child or 2 or 3 children in the class, and there's like 25, 30 kids in the class, if they come down with coronavirus, well, they got to quarantine all the kids in the class and the teacher. Since the school year began, there have been over 704 total outbreaks in schools. Almost 12,000 students have tested positive for the virus. From August 9th through August 13th, the Mississippi Department of Health reported over 20,000 students in quarantine statewide in Mississippi. Over 20,000 students in quarantine statewide, according to accounting for 4.5% of the public school population. In that week, over 4,500 new COVID-19 cases were among students. Over 900 teachers and staff tested positive, and 1,463 were quarantined from August 9th to August 13th. The skyrocketing cases and related quarantines come as the health department reported the highest one-day case counts in the 18 months the virus has circulated in Mississippi. On Friday, now this was back around August 24th. On Friday, the state reached a dismal record of 5,048 COVID-19 infections reported in a single day in Mississippi. Read the rest of this. Okay, this is what's going on in Mississippi in the outbreak in the schools. Now, there was a piece from I think it was National Public Radio. Let me pull this one up here. There was an article today that I was reading from National Public Radio. I think it was NPR. Let me see. Yeah, this one right here. At least 13 Miami-Dade school workers have died of COVID-19 in less than a month. At least 13 Miami-Dade school workers have died of COVID-19 in less than a month. All of those who died were African American and unvaccinated. This is from a National Public Radio. I was reading this article earlier today. Pull this one up here. What the heck is this one right here? Okay, check out this one from National Public Radio. At least 13 Miami-Dade school workers have died of COVID-19 in less than a month. This is from September 8th, 2021. Okay. This is from Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. At least 13 employees of the Miami-Dade County Public Schools have died from complications of COVID-19 since August 16th, according to district officials. So remember, because of dumbass governor Brian Kemp, I mean, not Brian Kemp, he's in Georgia, another dumbass in Georgia, Ron DeSantis, okay? Because of his mask mandate, he made because of his anti-mask mandate executive order, he made mask mandates in school illegal. So they're being sued over this. The state is being sued over this because you have school districts that want to have mask mandates to protect children and protect staff and workers, teachers, things like this. It makes sense. Those who died include teachers, school bus drivers, a security worker, and a cafeteria manager. I'm sure most of these people have families at home also, so they can possibly infect their families. It is a big number. It is a bruising statistic that we need to absolutely internalize. Miami-Dade School Superintendent Alberto M. Carvalho told National Public Radio's here and now. Okay. According to the president of the United Teachers of Dade County, Carla Hernandez Matz, all of those who died were African American and unvaccinated. For whatever reason, they were unvaccinated. I don't know why. It could be health reasons, whatever. It could be pre-existing conditions. Don't know. Carvalho said that while the district is blocked by law from requiring employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19 or even asking whether they are vaccinated, he's urging people to get the shot. Quote, this sad statistic underscores the impact of misinformation and disinformation efforts through some vocal entities who quite frankly profess anything but scientific reality. The outcome, the consequence, is the death of individuals, and that's just not acceptable. Okay, so read this here. We'll talk some tomorrow about the lawsuits against Florida, the state of Florida, and Ron DeSantis. Read this article here from NPR. Okay. All right, we've got that. And okay, read the rest of this one here from NBC News. Let me just make sure I got all my notes that I highlighted on this one from NBC News. Hold on. Okay. Page 4. If we look at page 4, Biden's COVID-19 reset comes as the rapidly spreading Delta variant threatens to stall the country's economic rebound and derail efforts to return students to the classroom. Just weeks into the return to school, because a lot of the southern school districts went to school 2 or 3 weeks before schools in the north went back to school. Just weeks into the return of school, tens of thousands of students and staff have had to isolate themselves following school outbreaks, and the administration attributed August's disappointing job numbers to the Delta variant, as consumer confidence falls. Okay, so they deal with approval rating. Okay, down to 43%. And there's various reasons behind that also. There's a number of different disasters taking place at the same time. Now, page 5. This summer was indeed different, but not in the way Biden had anticipated. States such as Florida, where idiotic Governor Ron DeSantis is there, Florida set records, and states like Florida, like Texas, set records for the number of patients hospitalized with COVID-19, as new cases across the country went well above the numbers seen last summer due to the spread of the Delta variant. Across the country, states are seeing hospitals overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients. In Idaho, which has some of the lowest vaccination rates in the country, officials said Tuesday they were allowing healthcare providers to begin rationing care to make scarce resources available to patients most likely to survive because of a severe shortage of staff, beds, and equipment. So they have to ration care. So patients that are unlikely to survive, they have to take care away from them and give it to patients more likely to survive. In Idaho, which has some of the lowest vaccination rates in the country, officials said Tuesday they were allowing healthcare providers to begin rationing care to make scarce resources available to patients most likely to survive because of a severe shortage of staff, beds, and equipment. Now, the U.S. has started to see a downturn in the number of new cases and deaths over the past week. But public health officials have warned that downturn could be short-lived, could be a short-lived break, because following Labor Day weekend gatherings and people traveling for Labor Day weekend, and millions of children going back to school this week, like in northern states, and millions of children going back to school this week, it's expected that you will probably see this explosion in coronavirus. Health officials are also warning of a winter surge that could coincide with a particularly severe flu season, with kids back in school, people congregating more than last winter, and mask requirements gone in most other countries. So, as I've been saying before, I think this thing is really about to explode. Because if you know anything about viruses, when it gets colder, viruses spread more because people retreat indoors. They are in closer proximity to one another, which allows viruses to spread more. So if it's raging during the summertime, if coronavirus and the Delta variant is raging during the summertime, then what do you think is going to happen in the fall when it gets colder and people retreat and they're indoors more, as opposed to being outside? And then lastly, it was a good article here from the Washington Post. 8 things to know about Biden's vaccine mandates and other plans. So this puts everything in bullet points it. Let's see, where is that? Let's look over here. Let's pull this up from the Washington Post. I was reading the live updates from the Washington Post and New York Times today. I'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. I'm usually a panelist on each Friday. Most of you all know that. So we have a lot to talk about. Then we'll be back here Friday night for the African History Network show. While we get this pulled up. So who still needs to register for the new 10-week online course that starts up Saturday, September 11th? From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. This class deals with history. We deal with about a little more than 100-year period of history from last year, the Civil War, and we go through Reconstruction, Black Reconstruction, Jim Crow era, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power movement. Okay, and let's see, let's get this back up here. So this is a 10-week online course. Each class we go through and analyze an approximately 10-year period of history to see what happened to us after slavery ended, after the Civil War ended. What were the laws and policies put in place to put us in the predicament we're in right now? And we can better understand if we better understand our history and what happened in the past, we're in a better position to direct the future and be in control of the future. A people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past and the present and the future to meet the needs of the community. And, you know, our foundation is African history and culture. This gives us our values and interests and our principles. This gives us a cultural paradigm we see reality through. This helps us influence our economic empowerment and political empowerment. So this class number 1 starts up Saturday, September 11th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Each class we go through and analyze approximately a 10-year period of history. And we go through the civil rights movement and through the Black Power movement. So this class is on sale right now. It's regularly $130. It's on sale $70. It's on sale $70 until September 11th. You'll get 6 bonus lectures as well in digital download format when you register for this class. 6 bonus lectures from me. You get the presentation I did dealing with the real history of Juneteenth, and then also the Black Migration 1619 to 2019 bundle pack from me as well. It's a 6 title bundle pack. Okay, so we'll post a link here. You can register for this class. This bonus content you can start watching as soon as you register. You can start watching the content. You can join us in class. You can watch from around the world. And we do the class live. All the sessions are recorded, so you can go back and watch them over and over again also. Okay. All right. So you can register for that. All right. Now, very quickly here, let's look at this last. I'm going to look at this last article. This is from the Washington Post. Hold on. Okay. Eight things to know about Biden's vaccine mandates and other pandemic plans. Okay, mandatory vaccination for all federal employees and contractors. This is going to go into effect in 75 days. Vaccine mandate for businesses as a regulation to be written by the Department of Labor. It will require all businesses with 100 or more employees either to mandate vaccinations for all their workers or require them to take a weekly coronavirus test. Okay, that is for businesses that have 100 or more employees. Most African-American owned businesses that does not affect. The White House estimates that the policy will affect about 80 million workers, or 2/3 of the country's workforce. Businesses that ignore the policy once it's in place could trigger penalties of up to $14,000 per violation, according to a senior Biden administration official who briefed reporters on the plan. Okay, time off to get shots. New rules for the Labor Department will require businesses with more than 100 employees to give their staff paid time off to get vaccinated or to recover from doing so. Healthcare workers, vaccinations for healthcare workers as well. The information on that, measures in school, we talked about that. He's calling on governors to require vaccinations for all teachers and staff. Okay, it's not in executive order, but he's calling on governors to do the right thing. The administration will also give financial help to school districts that face penalties for defying states' rules because the school districts want to enact mass mandates to protect children, to protect staff, and they have idiotic governors like Governor Brian Kemp. I'm not Brian Kemp. He's the idiot of Georgia, but Ron DeSantis of Florida or Greg Abbott of Texas. Okay, so you can read the rest of this here. 8 things to know about Biden's vaccine mandates and other pandemic plans. All right. So that's going to do it for us today. You can register for the online course that starts up this Saturday. Then also we have one starting up Sunday, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This one here, we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. This is on sale $70 also until Sunday, until September 12th. And this class from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. This course picks up where understanding the transatlantic slave trade leaves off. Now, you can take them in any order, but there's so much information to cover dealing with this history. I could not get all the information I wanted to into the 10-week course, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade. So I created the second course, From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, so we can focus in, we can spend more time and focus in on this 100-year, a little more than 100-year period of history. Okay, to really look at what happened to us after slavery ended. What were the laws and policies that were put in place? What were our successes as well? What were advances that we made? Movements, migrations, all different types of things like this. Okay, so it's a fantastic class. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. I should be on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and you can download Roland's new Black Star network from Roku and Android, iPhones. You download his new app. Okay. And I'll be on there, and we'll be back here tomorrow for the African History Network show. All right. Remember, right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.